Let's talk about finding prettiness when you are in toxic mold. Because, from my experience, toxic mold was extremely ugly in every area of life. And even my personal belongings were starting to dwindle as I was purging them and getting rid of them. And oftentimes even for money because a lot of my finances were being sucked into the vitamins and sucked into binders and things to replenish my health and my nutrients that were being taken from me. And so a lot of the times I would have to sell my belongings, and at the worst of it, at the worst of the toxic mold, I was living on a single mattress with nothing else around me, and all my clothes were in a cardboard box. It was ripping. And that was the extent of my room. It was a big room too. I mean, big for me. I don't know. Big I guess is what is that to people? Like, it's very relative, right? But for me, it felt like this huge space that I wasn't even occupying, and things around me were quite ugly. I mean, for me, the toxic mold came from a literal leak in our house and then some leaking pipes. And so that was very ugly. It made the roof very ugly. It made the ceiling very ugly. It made things around me very ugly. It made me looking in the mirror deteriorating quickly to becoming very detached from how I looked. And now even down to like the clothes that I would wear, I was gaining weight at such a rapid time that and my money was getting sucked that, like, it's not like I could afford at the time pretty clothes for my body. Like, it was just this time of having to buy clothes that were a necessity because I was changing clothes size so quickly that it was like I might not even fit into these next week. And that was quite the reality for me for a while. And so you go from this life where, you're living a normal life. You are wearing clothes that you like to wear for the most part, and trying to surround your home in pretty things that you like at least. And at that point, I personally had not a whole lot of prettiness around me. And even the way that people treated me was quite ugly. And so there was an ugliness in almost every capacity and compartment of life. And that's why I think finding prettiness in the small things was huge. It was absolutely crucial for my well-being because there was such an ugliness in every aspect, in every area of my life. And even my thoughts, the depression, the anxiety that often comes with toxic mold. Ooh, I'm like way over when there's so much room. I'm so sorry about that. There was such an ugliness even up here in my brain. And so it was just so crucial. And I ended up finding this out throughout, even though it was very hard to train myself to find beauty in the small things. But I had to start training my mind to seeing the beauty in the smallest things, in the small moments. Romanticize your life. I know that was a very big trend a couple years ago, or a big phrase that people were saying, romanticize your life. And it's so hard to do that when everything is so ugly and in disarray and in chaos, right? But it is also so crucial to try to get yourself as much as you can. Don't put too much pressure on yourself if you can't, but try to place your mind in a mindset that sees beauty and sees the blessing and sees the good. Because it'll save oftentimes your mental state. At least that's what it was doing for me. it also was so crucial for me to go outside during that time. I couldn't always get outside, especially where I live. I mean, it's so snowy here. I'm sure a lot of you guys in the US states that snow know what I mean, or get extremely cold. You know, there are moments where you can't go outside, where you can't just enjoy that weather. It's unsafe, or maybe it's you know, even the extreme opposite of that, the extreme heat climate some people get. You know, sometimes we can't, right? We can't always go outside, but as much as we can go outside, as much as we can go out into nature, and ground, especially grounding, because that reduces inflammation. I mean, look it up, grounding, it reduces inflammation. It's so good, it's so beneficial. But, you know, getting outside and seeing natural beauty, because sometimes it's so unappealing in our homes, in our life, in our man-made world, that we step out into nature and it's like, nature is just what it is, right? Nature is inherently natural beauty at its finest. And so it helps to sort of train our minds into thinking and seeing the beauty in at least nature. Now, if you're one of those people who usually thinks that nature is quite ugly and that prettiness is often like the glittery, the glam, the glitz, all the love for my glittery glam girls out there, all the love. Or all the bros out there who love their sports cars and the high quality watches, like, all the love to you and all the respect to you. But I think this is a time, at least this is what I've learned in my life, is this is a time when you're in toxic mold and you're going through this ugly period. This is this time to sort of take a step back from the man-made materials and immerse yourself in the natural world that is inherently supposed to be a natural beauty. It is the naturalist form of beauty, which often times isn't naturally appealing to us at first glance, right? I mean, that's where mud comes from. That's where a lot of these, you know, leaves that are imperfect and all of these imperfections of life come from. But it's this time, this calling sometimes of us to look at natural beauty and see it for what it really is, and try to see it, maybe even see it in a different light, in this new light. If you're a person who is usually very, sorry about that, my dog is moving this, who is naturally not drawn to nature and natural aesthetics, right? This can be a time that calls you closer to that, because the reality of it is too, is that there is ugliness in the man-made. The man-made has the capability to deteriorate in an unnatural way. And this could be a time that's calling upon you to look at the beauty in nature and draw yourself closer to nature if you can and when you can, and do some of the wacky things. Dip your toes into the sand a little bit, take off your shoes and do some grounding, get your feet a little muddy, because these things are also safe. I think also our society, our culture, sometimes tries to convince us that those are the things that are unsafe, that those are the things that are dirty, gross, nasty, icky, yucky, right? All the words. Whereas our modern technology, our modern living, that's the clean, that's the natural way for us to live, that's our natural state of being, that's how we should live, that's comfort, you know. But in reality, this might be the time that draws us to see things in a different light, to see nature as a part of us, a part of how we were made, a part of how we were built, a part of our ancestors' lineage. and try to get back to that a little bit and try to form a different type of love for it, even if you don't inherently love the natural and the nature and all of that. And if you do love that, that's a time also to immerse yourself in that and try to open up your eyes and your mind to seeing the beauty in the smallest little leaf. For me, this was a time where my mind was opened to moss. I started to actually, especially since I didn't have much energy at this time, my energy level was depleting as I was getting sicker and sicker. And so my time hiking and out in nature was less spent power walking and doing the quick nature activities, and it called me to be slow and quiet and sit next to a stream. And so oftentimes I would sit out there by a stream, by a bank, and let the water flow over my feet, and I would notice the intricate details all around me. The entire world that is under our feet. Moss especially was a big one for me during this time, and that I started to notice that moss is quite literally these little planets, these little worlds that we sort of just walk on and use as nature's carpet, right? But realistically, when you kneel down and you're sat next to it and you are investigating it, it is an entire life form. It's comprised of a million different little life forms, all collectively together. And then, you start to think about the power of being small and what it means to live with less for this period of time. And just the beauty of that. So, and even noticing the intricacies of bark on a tree and the intricacies of the veins on a single leaf that mimic our veins. These are things that we can see beauty in, that is the most purest natural form of beauty. And it's so beautiful. And I think this is the time. Toxic mold can oftentimes be this time for us to draw back to that, draw back to our ancestors and on nature, and can change our eyes a little bit to see beauty in places we ordinarily would have missed, helps us slow down a bit. So those are just some of the lessons that I learned while I was in toxic mold. I hope they benefit you as well.